I can cite the person now, but localise is the idea of local circumstances adapting to global needs without abandoning their own identity, but sticking to their values and fitting them against the demands of global economy, for example. Developmental is another one. You've got long-term goals, which fits in with lifelong learning. The idea that learners learn at different rates, which is a fundamental educational principle. Historically situated. Literacy educators recognise that literacy practices belong in the context in which they take place. So Shakespeare, for example, has different meanings in the present than he might have at the time it was written. Sociological, the causes are sociological. Literacy educators are interested in social context of learners, what they're bringing to sessions. Those are key and important aspects of a learner which need to be taken account of. There's multiculturalism in there. There's a sense of power distribution between teacher and learner through Freire, for example. So there's an egalitarian strand. There's personalisation as well. On the other side, what we've got in the right-hand column is a sense of the economised and managerialised FE settings that the two literacy mentors found themselves in. Basically, this list here is about the institutional pressures that they were facing. And FE teachers will find it very familiar because there's been almost 20 years now of incorporation and working within a market framework in which education has become very funding and assessment driven, and within literacy education in particular that has involved teaching to the test. All that originates in an instrumentalist policy and a response to globalisation. It's important in terms of the mentoring as well to recognise that although mentoring activity is pedagogical, it falls outside colleges' funding and accreditation mechanisms. There's no value as an achievement when the person goes through to the college, that is. Furthermore, it falls outside any activity that can be seen as beneficial to the college as an institution or corporation. So going down that right-hand column a bit more, as you can see, the grammar is prescriptive within this model of this instrumentalised version of literacy education, because the grammar is prescriptive. People have to write according to standard forms, and pressures of time, teaching to the test mean that any kind of focus on personal dialect is likely to be occluded. The globalisation means that it's much more subject to an economised approach, which thinks that one size fits all and everyone has to jump through the same kind of hoop. The role of the mentor is judgmental rather than developmental in the way they observe and talk about it. That's because within the sort of assessment activities that go on in FE now, grading and marking people against some sort of measure in assessment seems to be the norm. Instead of long-term goals, we have SMART targets. SMART targets do not belong in an educational context, really, simply because the measurability of attainment, particularly in language learning, there's lots of research to demonstrate that it's a facile way of talking about the activity. People don't learn to write a sentence in one lesson. Sometimes, particularly in second language acquisition, people learn a form and then their knowledge of the form seems to go away and then come back again. Well, the same can be said for the use of the comma and the apostrophe. The idea that once you've achieved something in language learning, that it's there for good, is a nonsense. There's an ahistoricism to this kind of literacy education and this model of mentoring in education. This idea that it's, well, for a start, no regard has been paid to the history of literacy education to date. None of the lessons have been learned or taken on board. Instead, we are driven by this depersonalised assessment model. Of course, therefore, it's technicist, because it's all about grades and numbers passing within the group and retention rates and success rates. To the extent that dialect forms are viewed as substandard and devalued, it's monocultural as well. Also, far from being egalitarian, as in a Freirean classroom, there's a hierarchy. You have judges and the judged, the assessors and the assessed. However much you want to struggle within that kind of framework to make learning a personalised experience, you're always going to be fighting against, well, what's gone before, the judgmentalism, the targets, the technicist approach, the prescriptive grammar. So to that extent it's depersonalised. And that one also is interesting because although at the very bottom here you've got the context is the person within a global situation, on this side we've got the person as an individual within an institution. This is one of the key things that the market model fails to address, because within a market model institutions are primarily concerned with their own interests. How could they be otherwise? So they are things are geared up to making sure they get maximum return from the number of learners they've got on the course and that those learners achieve. And this often means that the needs of the institution override the needs of the student. And there is research in the literature which demonstrates that. Some of my own papers among that research. So that was a long slide. So it sounds very depressing, and that's a bit what it feels like there. That's me and the mentors in the car flying out into the middle of the gully. But the wings are that actually undertaking this project led us to think again. It led to a reinvigoration of our established views of holistic literacy education. It's as it says there, sharpened for us the importance of struggling against these reductive and homogenising versions of literacy. It's led us to look at this globalisation idea. It's a constructive mediation of globalisation. Put simply, that means supporting individuals, either would-be literacy teachers or literacy students, to value and be who they are. And yes, I'm talking about the varieties of English and their dialect as well there. And then to develop understandings and proficiencies of the standard forms alongside that. And the fact is, oh, it's from Robertson, there you go. I knew the reference was in there somewhere. So the fact is, holistic literacy education develops the person in ways that may also address the economic realities in the long term, because it's about people valuing who they are and moving forward from there, rather than us writing off huge groups of people or telling people that who they are is somehow substandard. Whereas this economised literacy model, it simply alienates them from themselves. It reduces literacy mentors to uncritical agents of instrumentalist policies. Oh, that's it.